Welcome, TA McCann with RIM. How are you?
I'm great, thanks.
Well, for those of you who don't know, TA is with RIM. You're CEO of GIST. So can you tell us quickly about yourself?
So I'm newly with RIM. GIST was a company I started about 3 years ago, and we were recently acquired, so we announced that in February. And for any GIST users out there, awesome. Oh, there we got a few. Means I got all the rest of you to convert. So GIST is really the next generation social address book. So it brings together all of your contacts from Outlook, Gmail, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, any place where your contacts live today. We automatically rank and prioritize those contacts based on how you've interacted with them. Then we go out to the web and we search 50,000 news sources, 20 million blogs, Facebook, Twitter. So now you have all the content about all of your contacts, and then we deliver that back in context. So inside of Outlook, when you get an email, you get the gist. Right-click on a meeting request, get the gist. And it's available on iPhone, Android, inside Gmail, and shortly inside of other applications as a browser add-in. So with a team of 20 people, we've built a cloud service, connection to Outlook, Gmail, 2 browser add-ins, an Android and an iPhone app, and a forthcoming BlackBerry app. So from an application perspective, I'd say we've done a pretty wide swath there. And from a blend of social, mobile, and cloud, I think we check the box.
Sure. And can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing within RIM now? I think your roles changed a little bit.
Not too much, actually. So, RIM acquired us to really reimagine the social experience on the BlackBerry, and then more broadly speaking. So, it's only been 2 months, so I'm pretty good at speaking about GIST. I'm only just getting dangerous with regard to speaking about RIM as a whole. But believing in the cloud and a set of connected services that make, obviously, a BlackBerry better, but obviously make the business professional much more productive and much more informed is the space that we're really working. So we're staying in our office in Seattle, basically continuing to push forward the platform that we've built to date.
Well, it's interesting to talk to you and see you be a part of RIM, because as I think JP alluded to in our first talk, RIM really set the foundation that they're the shoulders that I think enterprise mobility built on for a long time. And the topic of our conversation today is self-provisioning. So it's to me, we've moved towards a model that is a fairly wide departure from the old world of what RIM used to be. Command and control, buy 1,000 BlackBerries and get out to my C-level execs. But now we're talking about a self-provisioning model, democratized kind of manage my own technology. How do we make this shift, and how are you helping RIM make this shift?
Well, I can't be responsible for what happened over the last 3 years. Maybe I'll be responsible for some of the things that happen in the next couple of years. But just by way of background, I used to also run the exchange business, so I'm reasonably familiar with kind of the enterprise IT market. And I think what has happened, obviously there's the personalization of IT. Obviously, there is the advent of platforms, whether they be the Mac or they be the web or they be the iPhone, that allow for people to provision their own experience. And that just sort of caught, I think, everybody by surprise, whether it be RIM or the enterprise as a whole, to say, wait, I don't have to set up a big group and do a big evaluation. Like, my smartest users are being able to configure their experience without any help, without any support. I don't need to even do anything to let them be more productive. So I think that took, everybody by surprise, partly because of the stability of the platforms and the ability for developers, because of the stability or sophistication of the platform, to create these kind of apps which consumers can just go and get. And this is not just on iPhone or iPad or otherwise, but if you think about something like browser add-ins and the advents of those types of things, you think about like the 7 different Gmail plugins that I have. Gmail is a quote-unquote platform, Chrome is a platform to enable a relatively small amount of people to customize their experience. That's a big deal. That's a very big change, as opposed to IE or Windows 5 years ago. Well,
the interesting thing about, to me, about the workplace today in a self-provisioning model is some of it could be a generational conversation, right? And I think a lot of the millennials, for example, I look a lot at millennials in the workplace, one of the things I'm looking at, and they're all about self-provisioning. But then you may, on the other, you may have baby boomers or Gen X who are not. So it's a big balance and a wide swath of people you have to. So what are some of the challenges in trying to get your arms around such a huge, diverse user base with different technology capabilities, et cetera?
Well, I think it'll always be somewhat generational, right? I mean, I'm 45, and so I'd say I sort of grew up with the internet as being a normal sort of part of my work. And if I look at the people that work at GIST, like the 25-year-olds, they have obviously the web, but they have social. And so social is the thing that is just native to them. And social discovery of new apps, new techniques, new process, I think that's the big sort of gap. And we've been not talking about necessarily in terms of age, but we're talking about sort of new work style. So we've sort of coined this term, and new work style can be applied to anybody of any age. Yeah. It's certainly more likely to be younger, but in new work style, it's sort of provisioning my own experience, being able to leverage my social graph to find new applications, to try new applications, building the mental muscle so that if I want to solve a particular task, I'll be able to try 6, 7, 10, 12 different apps, combine them in slightly different ways, figure out which ones work and which ones don't work, and then tell all my friends about my experience. And in that process, we collectively get a lot smarter. And as you go more new work style, which tends to trend younger, then you're just being able to do that rapidly about, well, I want to do a photo sharing thing, or I want to learn how to play guitar, or I want to do a better job with task management. All of those can be a blend of leveraging my social graph, plus solid platforms and trying many apps, and then customizing a blend of process and product to get to a better result.
You talk a little bit about process, and I think one of the impacts of process in the self-provisioning model is it's going to have a big shift on the old world of kind of centralized buying, et cetera. So as we
I certainly hope so.
Yeah, and as we move towards kind of those centralized decisions to kind of continuous pay and subscription as you go, how is the payment for technology going to change as we move towards self-provisioning? You know, as the enterprise still has to foot the bill in a lot of respects, how does that change?
Well, I hope that we get to a model which is mostly, I mean, if you think about it as, it's certainly in this room, it's not ad supported per se. It's mostly subscription in one form or another. But we move more toward a monthly subscription sort of model, more toward a, hey, I'm done with the app, I'm shutting it off, I'm not paying anymore, as opposed to you've pinned me into 3 years worth of enterprise licenses. And as soon as an enterprise has to make that choice of 3 years or 5 years worth of enterprise license, they're going to ask for a whole lot of customization, which means it makes them that much more difficult to change. And the end user has to go through this, oh wait, we've pinned ourselves in for 5 years, therefore we can't change because we have to keep paying. So as you move toward a more self-provision, self-pay, if you will, or end user pay sort of model, I think everybody gets that much more flexible. It's probably a slightly more difficult to budget for, but it's probably also less expensive in the long run. You're not using lots of systems which are old, outdated, and people complain about. I mean, how many people sit and look at an enterprise system like a expense management system or a vacation management system, and everyone opens it up and they go, ugh. And it's immediately sort of an outdated app that's difficult to use, that takes some training and 5 calls to support, as opposed to a new generation web app which someone says, oh, this is logical, next, 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 fill in this, next, done, oh, there we go, like TripIt, for example.
Right.